Arjun Malhotra had always believed silence was the safest place a person could hide. Back home in Delhi, silence kept him invisible in a family where shouting was the only language spoken. Here, in Toronto, silence shielded him from the loneliness he didn't know how to confess to anyone. That was why he spent most evenings tucked inside the university library, surrounded by the comforting hum of pages turning and keyboards tapping. Tonight, though, the library felt unusually hollow. Midterm week usually filled every corner with anxious students, but a sudden snowstorm had left the campus nearly deserted. Arjun sat hunched over his laptop, the pale screen reflecting the tiredness in his eyes. His visa extension results were pending, and each passing day only added to his dread. He blinked hard, trying to stay focused. His family had sacrificed everything, small savings, borrowed money, even emotional pride, to send him here. Failure was not an option. Deportation was a nightmare he didn't dare imagine. A soft, unfamiliar perfume drifted past him. Too elegant for a student. He lifted his head slowly. There she was. A woman in her late 30s, maybe early 40s, walking between the bookshelves with the confidence of someone who had never been denied anything. She wore a long cream coat, high-heeled boots, and diamond earrings that caught the overhead lights like tiny sparks. Her presence didn't belong in a university library at 10 p.m. Arjun's breath stilled. She paused near his table, glancing at the empty seats around him before giving him a gentle smile. "Is anyone sitting here?" Her voice was soft but carried the unmissable warmth of someone used to being listened to. Arjun nodded too quickly. "You can sit." She slid into the chair across from him, removing her gloves with slow, graceful movements. Everything about her felt deliberate, controlled, expensive. Even the way she placed her leather bag on the table said something about who she was, someone far above his world. He tried to return to his laptop, but the cursor blinked accusingly on a half-written paragraph. His concentration dissolved under the magnetism of her presence. "You look stressed," she said. He froze. She had noticed him. Actually noticed him. "It's nothing. Just university stuff." "And life stuff?" she asked, tilting her head. He exhaled. "Something like that." She smiled, not pitying but understanding. "I'm Claire," she said simply. "Claire Donovan." The name meant nothing to him then. Not wealth. Not real estate empires. Not the scandalous gossip blogs that had whispered about her marriage for years. To him, she was just a stranger with kind eyes and a calm voice. A person who made him feel seen for the first time since arriving in this cold, distant country. "I'm Arjun," he murmured. "Arjun," she repeated slowly, as if testing the sound. "That's beautiful." He swallowed, heat spreading across his face. No one had ever said his name that way. For a moment, silence returned between them, but this silence felt different, warmer, almost intimate. Claire tapped her fingers on a closed book, glancing at him as though she could read every unsaid fear hiding beneath his polite smile. "Do you come here often?" she asked. "Most nights." "That must get lonely." He opened his mouth, ready to deny it, but the truth pressed too heavily on his chest. He nodded instead. Claire leaned back slightly, studying him. "You remind me of someone I used to know. Someone who carried too much alone." Something fragile inside him cracked at her words. "Maybe," he whispered, "I just don't have many people here." Her gaze softened further. "Then maybe you shouldn't be alone tonight." Before he could react, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, expression tightening for half a second, quick, but sharp enough to reveal tension. She stood abruptly. "I have to go," she said. "But I hope we meet again, Arjun." Then she left, her perfume lingering like a promise. Arjun watched her disappear into the storm outside, unaware that the woman he had just met was about to pull him into a world of desire, danger, and deadly secrets he was never meant to survive. And tomorrow night, she would return. Arjun didn't expect her to return. People like Claire Donovan were passing storms, beautiful for a moment and then gone, leaving only the memory of their light behind. But the next evening, as he sat in the same corner of the library, pretending to study while obsessively checking the entrance, she appeared again. No cream coat tonight. Instead, she wore a charcoal sweater that hugged her figure and simple gold hoops that glimmered beneath the soft library lights. Arjun felt his chest tighten. She walked straight to him, as though this table belonged to them now. "You didn't leave," she said with a small smile. "But I usually study here. And I usually don't return to the same place twice." She placed a coffee cup in front of him. "But tonight I made an exception." He stared at the cup. His name was written on it in looping cursive. "You bought this for me?" "I wasn't sure what you liked," she said. "So I guessed." He took a hesitant sip. It was exactly what he would have ordered. Too perfect. Claire sat across from him, watching his reaction with a quiet satisfaction. "You look tired again," she said. "I'm waiting for my visa extension," he admitted. "It's slowing down. Everything depends on it." She leaned in. Visas. Immigration. Those systems always crush the people who work the hardest. Arjun blinked. "You know about that?" "I know about power," she answered softly. "And how unfairly it's used." The way she said it, steady, cold, almost practiced, sent a shiver through him. He wanted to ask what she meant, but her gaze shifted toward his shaking hands. "Relax, Arjun," she whispered. "You're safe with me." The words hit deeper than they should have. They talked for nearly an hour, the conversation flowing with surprising ease. She asked questions, gentle, probing ones, not in a prying way but like she genuinely wanted to understand him. He told her about his hometown, the pressure on him, the fear of failing his family. She listened in a way no one else ever had. Sometimes she brushed her fingers against her coffee cup, and every time she did, his eyes followed the movement. Something unspoken thickened the air between them. At one point he asked quietly, "Why are you here? I mean, why talk to me?" She paused, almost as if choosing a version of the truth. "Because it's been a long time since someone looked at me without wanting something." He frowned. "I don't want." "I know." She smiled bittersweetly. "That's why I'm still sitting here." But something flickered behind her smile. Sadness, anger, a bruise he could almost feel beneath her carefully controlled expression. The library announced its closing in 15 minutes. Claire stood, slowly pulling on her gloves. "Walk me out." Arjun hesitated, then nodded. They stepped out into the cold night. Snow fell in soft curls, blurring the streetlights. Claire stopped near the entrance, her breath visible in the icy air. "You're shivering," she said. "It's nothing." She reached out and touched his cheek with gloved fingers. The contact lasted only a second, but the shock of it made his heartbeat stumble. "You shouldn't have to endure everything alone," she murmured. Arjun swallowed hard. I'm not alone right now." A slow smile curved her lips. "No, you're not." Her phone buzzed suddenly. She glanced at it, and the warmth drained from her face. "I have to go," she whispered sharply. "Is everything okay?" "It never is," she said, voice trembling for the first time. "But, thank you for tonight." She pulled away, stepping into the waiting black car at the curb. The tinted window rolled up, hiding her completely. Arjun stood in the falling snow, heart pounding, unaware that this small touch, this moment of closeness, was the first thread in a web he was already trapped in. And tomorrow she would promise him more than comfort. She would promise him a future. The night Claire disappeared into the black car replayed in Arjun's mind through every class, every empty meal, every hour of restless sleep. He shouldn't have cared so deeply, not after only 2 meetings, but something about her had left a mark that wouldn't fade. Her touch, her voice, the fear flashing in her eyes as she checked her phone, none of it matched the polished confidence she wore like armor. 2 days passed before he saw her again. Not at the library this time. Not by accident. It happened at a crowded campus cafe. Arjun was standing in line, half awake, when a voice behind him murmured, "You didn't show up last night." He turned sharply. Claire stood there, wearing a long black coat and dark lipstick that made her look sharper, colder, almost unrecognizable from the woman who had touched his cheek tenderly under the snow. "I didn't know if you'd come back," he said. "I always come back," she replied softly. But something in her tone sounded rehearsed, defensive. They sat in a corner booth where warm light fell across her face, revealing a bruise partially hidden beneath her makeup. Arjun's stomach twisted. What happened? Nothing, she said quickly. It's nothing. Claire. She placed her hand over his, stopping him. Let it go, Arjun. Please. Her fingers trembled. He didn't push further. After an hour of conversation, light at first, then heavier, Claire's phone buzzed again. She stiffened. I have to take this, she whispered, stepping outside. Arjun watched her through the window. She wasn't talking. She was listening, shoulders rigid, eyes fixed on the pavement. Then slowly, a man stepped into frame, approaching her from behind. Arjun felt his blood freeze. Handsome in a severe, polished way. Hair neatly styled. A long dark coat. And a smile, thin, controlled, frighteningly calm, as he placed a hand on Claire's shoulder. She didn't flinch. She didn't turn around. She simply stood there, her body sagging slightly under his touch. Arjun rose instinctively. When Claire finally walked back inside, the man followed her. His shoes echoed across the cafe floor with deliberate slowness. His presence cut the noise around them in half. Conversations faltered. The man's eyes landed on Arjun. Assessing. Measuring. So, he said lightly, this is the boy. Claire grabbed the man's arm. Marcus, stop. Marcus Donovan. The name clicked like a trap closing. Arjun felt his pulse hammering in his throat. I didn't know she was married, he said quickly. Marcus smiled. Cold, elegant, deadly. Oh, I know. Claire always forgets to mention that part. Claire stepped between them. Let's talk outside. No, Marcus said. Let's talk right here. We're all adults. Arjun tried to stand, but Marcus pressed a hand to his shoulder, forcing him back down with effortless strength. You've been spending a lot of time with my wife. We were just talking. Marcus leaned closer. Do you think I'm stupid? Claire pulled him back. Marcus, enough. He straightened, smoothing his coat. This isn't about the boy. This is about you disappearing at night. About money missing from my accounts. About lies. Arjun's heart lurched. Money? Lies? What was Claire involved in? Claire's eyes flashed panic. Let's go home. Marcus smirked. Gladly. But before leaving, he turned to Arjun once more. Stay away from her. She destroys things she touches. When they walked out, Arjun watched Claire's face through the glass. She looked trapped, exhausted, and small beside Marcus's towering frame. Yet as Marcus opened the car door, Claire glanced back at Arjun, just for a second. A silent plea. A warning. Or both. Arjun sat there long after they drove away, hands shaking. He didn't know it yet, but Marcus wasn't the only one watching Claire. And the lies she told weren't just dangerous. They were fatal. Tomorrow, Arjun would learn just how deep she had already pulled him into the shadows. And Claire, she wouldn't come alone. Arjun barely slept after the confrontation at the cafe. Marcus's voice replayed in his head, sharp, controlled, full of a threat wrapped in politeness. He hadn't realized fear could feel so cold, like something settling under the skin and refusing to leave. But what haunted him most wasn't Marcus. It was Claire's eyes. The way she silently begged for something she couldn't say out loud. The way her shoulders curled inward when Marcus's hand touched her. The way she had looked at Arjun as if he was the only safe place she had left. The next days passed in anxious quiet. No messages. No glimpses of her. No trace that Claire Donovan had ever drifted into his life like a dangerous dream. Arjun tried to focus on his assignments, but every page looked like static. His mind kept replaying her trembling fingers, the bruise under her makeup, her whispered plea, let it go. On the fourth night, he found her. Not in the library. Not in the cafe. But standing near the back entrance of his dorm building, wrapped in a navy coat and hugging herself tightly against the cold. Arjun froze. Claire. She turned toward him slowly, her face pale beneath the dim streetlight. I shouldn't be here, she said softly. But I didn't know where else to go. He stepped closer, instinctively lowering his voice. What did he do? Did Marcus? Don't, she whispered sharply. Please don't say his name right now. Her breath trembled in the air. Snow clung to her hair like tiny shards of glass. Arjun opened the side door and guided her inside before anyone could notice. They walked through the quiet hallway until they reached the small study lounge. It was empty, warm, and dimly lit, an island of privacy in a building full of strangers. Claire sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I just needed to breathe without him watching me. Arjun sat beside her, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel he wasn't leaving. You can tell me what's happening, he said. You don't have to keep it inside. She lifted her head slowly. Her mascara was smudged, her lips trembling. Arjun, Marcus doesn't get angry. He gets calculated, controlled. And when he thinks he's losing something, he becomes, she swallowed hard, unpredictable. Arjun felt dread curl through him. He hurt you. She didn't answer with words. She simply pulled back her sleeve, revealing the faded outline of a bruise shaped like fingers. Arjun's fists tightened. He can't do this to you. Claire let out a soft, bitter laugh. People like Marcus don't get stopped. They get obeyed. A heavy silence filled the room. Then she reached for Arjun's hand, not gently, but desperately, as if it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Being with you, it makes me forget what my life is. His voice came out a whisper. Then stay. She leaned in, hesitant at first, searching his eyes for any sign of doubt. When she found none, her lips brushed his, soft, trembling, hungry for something real. The world outside the lounge fell away. Her fingers slid into his hair. His arms circled her waist. The kiss deepened, slow, then urgent, built on fear and longing and everything they weren't supposed to feel. But even in that closeness, something was wrong. Claire's breath hitched, not from passion, but from a quiet panic she tried to hide. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. I can't keep doing this in the open, she whispered. Marcus has people watching me. Arjun stiffened. Watching? She nodded. He doesn't trust me. He never has. And after seeing us together, it'll get worse. He exhaled shakily. What do we do? Claire looked at him with a strange mixture of hope and fear. We stay quiet. We stay careful. And we stay in the shadows. Her voice softened. Until I can give you something better. Arjun didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. But tomorrow, she would make him an offer that would pull him deeper into her world. A promise disguised as salvation. The promise of a future. Arjun woke the next morning with the taste of Claire still lingering on his lips and the weight of her fear pressed tight against his ribs. Their kiss had felt inevitable, dangerous, beautiful, and wrong in a way that made him tremble. But what haunted him more was her warning. Marcus has people watching me. That sentence replayed in his mind through his classes, through lunch, through every breath. Marcus wasn't just jealous or controlling. He was a man with resources, power, and a cold smile that promised consequences. Arjun knew he should pull away. Cut contact. Protect himself. But that night, when Claire texted him a single word, come, he was already grabbing his coat before he could think. She was waiting for him in a quiet parking lot behind a small coffee shop far from campus. Snow flurried around her as she leaned against her car, arms folded tightly across her chest. Her eyes were red, like she hadn't slept. You came, she whispered. I shouldn't have, Arjun said honestly. But I couldn't stay away. She stepped forward, fingers brushing his jaw in a touch far softer than the trembling in her voice. I needed to see you. Today was bad. Marcus. She nodded. He questioned me again. My phone. My emails. My bank accounts. Arjun felt ice settle in his stomach. Is he watching me too? I don't think so, she said. But if he suspects, he will. A gust of wind howled through the lot, whipping her hair across her face. She looked small, fragile, and cornered. But then something tightened in her expression, determination mixed with desperation. I have to tell you something, she said quietly. And I need you to trust me. He nodded, heart pounding. Claire took a slow breath. You said you're waiting for your visa extension. That you're scared it won't come. Arjun stiffened. Yes. What if I said I could fix that? He blinked. What do you mean? I know people, she said. Immigration lawyers. Consultants. People who can expedite applications or create alternatives. Arjun stared at her, unable to speak. The word, alternatives, echoed in his mind like a warning. She stepped closer. I can help you stay here, Arjun. Permanently. He shook his head. Claire, you don't have to. I want to, she cut in, voice trembling. I want to give you something real. Something Marcus can't take away from me. He swallowed hard. Claire, is this legal? Her gaze flickered. It's complicated. That single hesitation told him everything and nothing at the same time. Claire, he whispered, I don't want you risking anything for me. She grabbed his hand firmly. I'm not risking anything for you. I'm choosing something for myself. Marcus has controlled every part of my life. The money, the house, my freedom. But he doesn't control this. He doesn't control who I help. Her voice cracked. Or who I love. Arjun froze. She had said it. The word dropped between them, heavy and electrifying. He felt himself unraveling under it. Claire. She pressed a finger to his lips. Don't say anything. Not yet. The parking lot was silent except for the soft hiss of falling snow. Claire opened her car door and pulled out a thin folder, offering it to him like a fragile secret. These are forms, she whispered. I can get someone to process them. Off the record. Arjun didn't take them. His hands were shaking too violently. Here, this could get us in trouble. It already has, she murmured. We crossed the line the moment we kissed. He finally took the folder. It felt heavier than any textbook he'd carried in his life. Claire stepped closer, her forehead resting against his chest. I need you to trust me, she whispered. This is the only way we can survive Marcus. Arjun felt torn between fear and devotion. I trust you, he said softly. More than I should. Her breath trembled against him. But, because tomorrow we start the process. Arjun didn't know that Claire wasn't just bending the rules. She was about to shatter them. And by morning, Marcus would notice the first missing funds. And then, nothing in their lives would be safe. Marcus didn't go home after walking Amara to her building. He said he had a late-night meeting, but that was a lie. The moment he stepped into the back seat of his waiting car, the warmth he'd shown her faded like mist burned off by the sun. His jaw locked, his eyes sharpened, and the cold smile she feared returned naturally, like it had simply been waiting. Drive? He ordered. The chauffeur didn't ask where. He never did. Marcus Hale was a man whose destinations were always prepared before he arrived. But tonight, Marcus wasn't heading to any office. He was going to verify whether Amara West was who she said she was. The truth was simple, he didn't trust people. And he trusted beautiful people even less. When the car stopped in front of his penthouse tower, he stepped out, rode the private elevator alone, and entered the silent expanse of his home. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the shimmering skyline, but Marcus didn't look at it. He walked straight to his study, opened his laptop, and typed faster than any of his employees had ever seen. He opened the secure system linked to his private investigation network, one only 3 people in the entire world had access to. He entered Amara's full name, then her date of birth, then her father's. Finally, he typed, scan financial history. The system hummed, processed, and loaded. Marcus leaned back, fingers steepled, the cold smile returning as results began to stream across the screen. He wasn't looking for dirt. He didn't want her to be a thief or a liar, nor did he want to find hidden accounts or strange transfers. He just needed something unexplainable, some sign that she had a motive for staying close to him. Because women like Amara didn't appear out of nowhere. They didn't look at him with those soft, unsure eyes. They didn't blush when he touched their wrist. They didn't say no to his offers unless they were scared or hiding something. The report loaded fully. Marcus expected chaos. He found the opposite. Her bank balance was painfully small. The kind that stung his chest in a way he didn't enjoy. She had no secret savings, no suspicious payments, no expensive purchases, no debts in her name except one minor hospital bill she'd been paying off in tiny monthly installments. He scrolled lower. More entries. Modest. Honest. Nothing about her made sense, because everything was too normal. Marcus exhaled slowly, confused. He prided himself on predicting people, but Amara was an equation that kept changing variables. He zoomed in on the last 10 transactions, searching for movement after the night at the cafe when she'd asked what she would owe him. Maybe she'd contacted someone. Maybe she'd received money. Maybe. His hand froze. There was a deposit. Small but $20. Marcus frowned, confused. Then he clicked to expand the details. Sender, West, Amir. Note, lunch money. Don't starve. I love you. Marcus stared. Her little sister. He sat back in his chair, the wind knocked out of him by something he refused to name. Something too soft, too warm, too human. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he checked Amira's account too, because he needed the full picture. She had $58. That was it. Yet she sent 20 to her sister. They weren't manipulating him. They were surviving. Marcus closed the laptop slowly, then pressed both hands to his face. It had been years since something twisted inside him like this, something uncomfortable, something close to guilt. He didn't want to feel guilty. He didn't want to feel anything. The elevator dinged somewhere down the hall, but Marcus didn't move. He stayed still, shoulders tight, breath uneven. When his phone buzzed beside him, he grabbed it quickly. For a second, he hoped it was her. It wasn't. It was his security chief. Sir, the message read, "We found something about her father." Marcus's entire body went cold. He stood slowly. Whatever this was, it wasn't normal. And Amara had no idea someone was about to dig up the past she tried so hard to outrun. Marcus didn't bother changing out of his suit. The message from his security chief kept replaying in his head as he strode to the elevator, jaw clenched, movements sharp. Moments ago, he had been drowning in guilt for digging into Amara's finances. Now the ground beneath him felt unstable for an entirely different reason. Her father. Something about her father. The elevator doors slid open, and Marcus stepped inside, pressing the button for the private garage. His reflection in the polished steel walls looked as tense as he felt. Cold eyes, stiff shoulders, a storm brewing beneath the surface. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but he knew one truth. Nobody got a message like that unless the findings were serious. When the doors opened, his head of security, Rowan Kane, was already waiting beside the black SUV. Tall, built like an iron wall, and loyal to Marcus since the day he'd saved Rowan's company from collapsing, he looked uncharacteristically uneasy. "What did you find?" Marcus asked without preamble. Rowan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened the SUV door for Marcus to step inside, then entered on the opposite side. "The information was flagged because it connects to an older file you had us monitor," Rowan said. "A case from 12 years ago." Marcus's eyes sharpened. "My mother's." Rowan nodded once. A chill licked down Marcus's spine. His mother's case wasn't just old, it was sealed, classified, and scrubbed from every public system. Only those directly working for him knew the details. He exhaled slowly. "Explain." Rowan handed him a tablet. A name glowed at the top of the screen. Thomas West. Amara's father. Marcus forced himself to keep reading. Thomas had been questioned years ago, not charged, not arrested, only questioned, because he'd been seen in the same building his mother visited before her death. There had been nothing to investigate at the time. Dozens of people had been in that building. No connection was ever proven. The file was closed. But now, Rowan pointed to a highlighted note. He resurfaced 2 weeks ago. Someone reported seeing him in the city. Marcus's pulse kicked hard. Where? Near the shelters downtown. The same ones Amara volunteers at. Marcus stared at the screen, mind racing. Was it coincidence? Was she hiding it from him? Or did she not know? He thought of her face last night. The sincerity, the worry, the quiet dignity she carried even with so little. She didn't seem like someone capable of deception. Yet Marcus had learned the painful way that lies didn't need to come from bad people. Sometimes they came from people trying to survive. He swallowed the bitterness rising in his throat. Is she in danger? We can't know yet, Rowan said. But her father being back in the city, it complicates things. Complicated was an understatement. Marcus closed the tablet, his chest tightening. He needed to see her. He needed answers. And more than that, he needed to make sure she was safe, whether she welcomed his interference or not. Track him. Quietly, Marcus said. And put 2 of our men on her route to the library. Rowan nodded. Already done. Marcus stepped out of the SUV, tension radiating through him. He didn't drive home. Didn't return to his penthouse. Instead, he walked, fast, purposeful, every step fueled by the urgent need to reach her. But Amara wasn't in the library the next morning. She wasn't at the cafe either. Her phone rang 5 times before going to voicemail. A sinking feeling formed in Marcus's stomach. Then he saw her, a flash of familiar brown hair in the distance, running down the sidewalk with her bag clutched to her chest, breath ragged, panic in every step. Something was wrong. Marcus didn't think. He sprinted. Amara, he shouted. She didn't slow. She didn't look back. She ran faster, as if running from him, or toward something much worse. And Marcus, whose world had always been predictable, found himself chasing a girl who never followed any rule he knew. A girl who was clearly running toward disaster. Marcus had never seen Amara run like that, wild, terrified, as if the air itself were collapsing around her. The morning sun sliced between buildings as he chased her across the street, narrowly dodging a passing truck. She finally slowed near an alleyway, chest heaving, hands trembling. When she turned, her eyes were rimmed with fear, and something else he couldn't name. Amara, he said, breathless. What happened? She shook her head. You shouldn't be here. That's not an answer. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to lie. Then her shoulders deflated. I got a message, she whispered. From who? Instead of answering, she pulled out her phone and handed it to him. The screen showed a single text from an unknown number. You want a visa? Meet me tonight. Alone. His jaw clenched. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if it was you, she said, voice cracking. Or someone trying to hurt me. Or, she swallowed hard, my father. Marcus felt a cold bolt of realization strike through him. So she did know he was back in the city. But before he could press her, a siren wailed in the distance, echoing off the alley walls. Amara flinched at the sound, gripping her bag tighter. I just want it all to stop, she rasped. He stepped toward her. Then let me help. But she shook her head, stepping back as if afraid his proximity alone could ruin her. I can fix things, Marcus insisted. Whatever's happening, you don't have to face it alone. She closed her eyes, drawing a shaky breath. Tonight, she whispered. Whoever sent the message wants to meet at the old industrial lots. If I don't go, I feel like something worse will happen. Marcus opened his mouth to argue, to forbid it, to drag her somewhere safe. But she stared at him with quiet determination. I need to see who it is, she said. I need to know the truth. And he understood then, Amara wasn't running toward danger. She was running toward answers. Toward closure. Toward the truth she'd been afraid to face. I'm coming with you, Marcus said. No, she said instantly. He stiffened. I'm not letting you walk into a trap. It says alone, she whispered. I don't care. But she placed her trembling hand on his arm. Marcus, if they see you, they won't show. Her voice softened. But you can wait nearby. Close enough to help. Far enough that I'm still alone. It was the nearest he would get to compromise. He nodded once. I'll be in the car. You get inside anything suspicious, you call me. You hear me? She nodded. Hours later, the industrial lot was a wasteland of cracked concrete, rusted beams, and shadows swallowing everything except the flickering street lamp at the far end. Amara stepped out of Marcus's car, heart hammering, breath fogging in the cold. Marcus remained behind the tinted glass, every sense sharpened, every muscle ready to move. Amara walked slowly toward the abandoned warehouse, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The wind hissed against metal sheets above her. Then she paused. Footsteps echoed softly behind the building. "Hello," she called. Silence. She edged forward, each step heavier than the last. Then the world snapped. A roar of fire erupted across the lot. A car parked meters away burst into flames, lighting the night sky in violent orange. Amara screamed and stumbled backward, shielding her face from the heat. The explosion shook the ground. Marcus leapt from his car. "Amara!" The burning vehicle crackled, metal groaning as flames devoured it. A second spark ignited the front hood, sending smoke billowing upward. Amara stared, paralyzed, because she recognized the model. It was her father's car. And he was nowhere in sight. The burning car cast monstrous shadows across the industrial lot, the flames turning the night into a violent, trembling orange. Amara stared at the inferno, frozen, as Marcus pulled her behind him, shielding her from the flying embers. The heat pressed against them like a physical force. But all she could think about was the license plate, her father's, melting in front of her eyes. "He was here," she whispered, voice cracking. "Marcus? He was here." Marcus scanned the darkness, every instinct on high alert. "He's not inside. If someone wanted to kill him, they wouldn't set the car off in the open." This was a message. A message to who? He didn't answer. The truth was already forming in the pit of his stomach, heavy and poisonous. Someone wanted to scare Amara. Or warn her. Or claim her father before she could reach him. Sirens began to howl in the distance. Marcus grabbed her hand. "We have to go. Now." They disappeared into the shadows just as police lights painted the lot blue. The next morning, Marcus drove north. A thin winter sun clung to the horizon as they crossed into Quebec. He hadn't slept. Amara, curled against the window, hadn't spoken for hours. Every few minutes, she wiped her eyes as if hoping the world would rearrange itself into something less cruel. "Why Montreal?" she finally whispered. Marcus tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Because your father used to live here. And because someone wants us looking in the wrong direction." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "Whoever burned the car knew we'd assume it was your father inside. They wanted panic." His jaw flexed. "They wanted distance between you and the truth." "And what truth is that?" "That there's someone else involved." Amara's breath caught. Someone else, in the visa scam? He didn't want to say the next words. But lies were already killing her. Yes. Her eyes welled, but this time it wasn't grief, it was betrayal. "Who?" she demanded. Marcus didn't answer. Not yet. Not until he was sure. He pulled into a quiet residential street in Montreal's outskirts. Snow covered the steps of an old duplex. A brass plaque by the door read, "Dr. Helena Ward, Immigration Consultant, Retired." Amara stared. "Who is she?" "The woman who processed your student extension 2 years ago." Marcus stepped out of the car. "Before I ever met you." Amara blinked at him. "You checked my records?" He flinched just slightly. "I had to. After last night." She looked away, hurt cutting through her expression. But she followed him to the door. Marcus knocked. A moment passed. Then the door cracked open. A woman in her late 60s, thin as paper and sharp-eyed, studied them. "Marcus Hale," she said with a tired sigh. "I knew you'd find me eventually." Amara stiffened. Marcus stepped forward. "We need to talk. Now." Dr. Ward opened the door wider. The inside of her home smelled of tea leaves and dust. Documents were stacked in neat piles. A single suitcase sat half-packed by the couch, as if she'd been preparing to flee. "Why did you disappear?" Marcus asked. Dr. Ward's expression flickered. "Because I realized I was being watched." "By who?" She looked at Amara then, something like guilt washing through her features. "Your father." Amara's breath hitched. "That's not possible. He left years ago." "No," Dr. Ward said quietly. "He didn't leave. He hid." She paused, measuring her words. "And he wasn't alone." "Explain," Marcus demanded. Dr. Ward poured herself tea with trembling hands. Thomas West was part of a small network. People who provided fake employment letters and falsified sponsorship documents. I confronted him. He told me he was done, that he'd stop. But he didn't. Her gaze flicked to Amara. He used your name. He used your identity, your status, even your tuition records. Amara froze. My identity? Someone, Dr. Ward whispered, has already filed a new immigration application using it. And it wasn't you. The room spun. Marcus grabbed Amara's arm to steady her. Who submitted it? Marcus asked. Dr. Ward hesitated before speaking the name that made Amara's heart collapse. A man he worked with. A man Thomas called his ticket out. She swallowed. A man named Rahul Mehta. Amara's ex-boyfriend. Her knees nearly buckled. Marcus caught her just as her phone began to ring, Rahul's name flashing across the screen. Amara's phone rang again, the display flashing a familiar name she hadn't expected to see, Rahul Mehta. Her heart pounded as she glanced at Marcus, whose expression had hardened into pure focus. Don't answer, he murmured. Whatever he wants, it's a trap. But curiosity and dread twisted in equal measure. Her thumb hovered over the screen. One wrong move and everything could collapse. She didn't want to believe Rahul could be capable of murder, but in her world, fear and desire had blurred into a dangerous cocktail long ago. Amara's phone rang again, the display flashing a familiar name she hadn't expected to see, Rahul Mehta. Her heart pounded as she glanced at Marcus, whose expression had hardened into pure focus. Don't answer, he murmured. Whatever he wants, it's a trap. But curiosity and dread twisted in equal measure. Her thumb hovered over the screen. One wrong move and everything could collapse. She didn't want to believe Rahul could be capable of murder, but in her world, fear and desire had blurred into a dangerous cocktail long ago. She didn't answer. Marcus stepped closer. We go now. To the waterfront. That's where Dr. Ward's intelligence pointed. He made a deal with your father and I promise you, it won't be pleasant. Amara swallowed hard. She had trusted Rahul once, back when her life had seemed simpler. She had never imagined he would betray her, that he could be involved in the dark network her father had used. The thought made her stomach turn. They arrived at the waterfront as twilight bled into night. Fog hovered above the docks, curling around rusty cranes and empty warehouses. A lone street lamp flickered near the edge, casting long, wavering shadows. The air smelled of salt and oil, and somewhere a seagull cried, lonely and desperate. Marcus parked the car in the shadows. Stay here, he whispered. I'll check first. But Amara couldn't. Fear had twisted into guilt, responsibility, and a strange, reckless need to see it all for herself. She stepped out. The docks were empty at first glance. Then a figure moved, slender, deliberate, holding a briefcase. Rahul, she breathed. He turned slowly, a smile creeping across his face. But it wasn't the warm, familiar smile she remembered. It was cold, practiced, and terrifyingly calm. Amara, he said, voice low. I knew you'd follow the clues. But you shouldn't have. Marcus emerged from the shadows behind her. Step away from her, he said, tone deadly. Rahul raised a hand, pretending surrender. I'm not here for her, not yet. Your father set this up. He wanted me to deliver the documents, but he lied about everything. What did he lie about? Amara demanded, heart hammering. Rahul smirked. About who's in charge. About who benefits. About who dies first. The words hit like ice. Before anyone could react, a gunshot rang out from the far end of the dock. A second later, another followed. The briefcase fell, papers scattering into the night. Amara screamed. Marcus lunged, shielding her. But it was too late. Rahul staggered, clutching his chest. Blood blossomed across his shirt. He fell backward into the icy water, flailing, thrashing, until the tide swallowed him whole. The dock was silent except for the distant lapping of waves and the faint echo of sirens approaching. Amara collapsed against Marcus, shaking violently, her body racked with guilt and relief all at once. He's dead, she whispered, voice breaking. Yes, Marcus said, jaw tight. But we have bigger problems now. Your father is still out there. And whoever orchestrated this, they won't stop at him. Amara's eyes widened, the reality of the situation pressing down. The network, the lies, the stolen identity, everything had led here. But the murder at the waterfront made one truth painfully clear. They were no longer playing with harmless deception. Someone wanted blood. And now, the next target could very well be Amara herself. She leaned against Marcus, shivering from cold and fear. What do we do? He wrapped an arm around her. We survive. We plan. And we make sure this never happens again. But deep in the shadows, unseen, a figure observed from the end of the pier. A gun still in hand, a message clear. The waterfront was only the beginning. The cold night air bit at Amara's skin as she and Marcus drove north toward the border. Every mile felt heavier than the last, weighed down by Rahul's death, the shadow of her father, and the network that had manipulated her life. The waterfront incident had changed everything. What had been a scramble to secure a visa now felt like a race against death itself. I still can't believe he's gone, Amara whispered, voice trembling. Marcus tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He made choices. You didn't. Don't carry that burden. She stared out the window, watching the dark highway slip past. Trees blurred together, shadows stretching across the snowy fields. But this isn't just Rahul, she said quietly. It's my father. And the people he's working with. They're still out there. And they know I'm coming. Marcus glanced at her. His expression softened for only a second before returning to that icy focus that had kept them alive. Good. Let them know. We'll be ready. Amara swallowed. Ready for what? The truth, he said, voice low. The part they've been hiding from you all along. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of the tires and the occasional call of a distant owl. By midnight, they reached the border checkpoint. Snow had fallen heavily, covering the asphalt in a slippery white sheen. Marcus parked a few hundred meters away, surveying the area. This isn't just a border crossing, he said. It's a checkpoint and a trap. If your father or his accomplices are watching, they'll expect us to be afraid. Amara's hand brushed against his, seeking reassurance. I'm not afraid. Good, Marcus said. Because fear will get you killed tonight. They approached the checkpoint cautiously, slipping into the shadows. The lights of the guard booths glared across the frozen ground, reflecting off their breath in jagged puffs. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the tree line. Thomas West, her father, older than she remembered, but every bit as dangerous. His eyes narrowed as he spotted them. Behind him, a van idled silently, engine off, shadowed figures inside. Dad, Amara breathed, but the words sounded foreign, fragile. Thomas smiled thinly. Amara, you've grown bold. Or foolish. Perhaps both. Marcus stepped in front of her, positioning himself like a shield. Step back, he warned. Thomas raised his hands slowly. I'm not here to fight yet. Not if she's listening. He gestured toward Amara. Your visa. Your future. Everything you've worked for, it's already part of a plan you don't understand. Amara's heart raced. What plan? Thomas's eyes darkened. The one that keeps us alive. The network, the forged documents. Rahul, the waterfront, all of it. You think he was helping you? He was cleaning up mistakes I made years ago. Mistakes I tried to erase. Marcus clenched his fists. Why involve her? Why risk her life? Because she's the key, Thomas said quietly. The only way to secure passage, freedom, and justice for what I did. And the border, he motioned toward the checkpoint. It isn't just a line. It's the final test. One wrong move, and everything ends in blood. Amara's stomach dropped. Every step, every choice, every betrayal, every touch of trust, everything had led here. Marcus tightened his arm around her shoulder. No more running. Tonight we find the truth. Tonight we face it together. Thomas's smile faded into something darker, almost a shadow of menace. Good. Because the next hour will decide who survives and who dies. Amara swallowed hard, gripping Marcus's hand. Snow fell silently around them, the border lights reflecting like icy judgment. For the first time in her life, the full weight of her father's betrayal, Rahul's death, and the network's manipulations pressed down on her. And for the first time, she understood the truth was coming, sooner, sharper, and bloodier than anyone could have anticipated.